Hey there, CENIMASTER fans! Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. A group of survivors set up a massive shredder on the only bridge leading to their shelter, effectively deterring any zombies from getting close. However, even the sturdiest fortress can fall apart from within due to internal discord. Several months ago, on an ordinary morning, a humble fisherman named Jizugu was going about his routine, processing fresh fish. As he deftly gutted the fish, he was stunned to see a gutted fish spring back to life and start flopping around. To his utter disbelief, all the other fish he'd cleaned began to thrash about as well. Jizugu, having fished for over 60 years, had never witnessed anything like this. Erring on the side of caution, he called his son, Trailer, the local sheriff. When Trailer arrived in his patrol car, Jizugu eagerly showcased the bizarre, still flopping fish carcasses. Despite his extensive experience, Trailer was thoroughly spooked. Deciding that extreme measures were necessary, he opted for a simple, if drastic, solution. If something couldn't be dealt with, it should be burned. But just as they were about to proceed, the trunk of Trailer's police car started to move. A sense of dread washed over him, because the trunk contained the body of a dog that was supposedly poisoned. With years of experience as a sheriff, Trailer knew he had to act quickly. He emptied his clip into the trunk and then, with his father, set the dog's body ablaze to ensure it was destroyed. However, this strange ordeal was only the beginning. Trailer received a call from the station, summoning him back because his two troublesome sons had once again landed themselves in jail, tarnishing his reputation as the local sheriff. Frustrated, Trailer rushed to the holding cell, ready to reprimand his sons. But he was met with a far more horrifying scene. One of the detainees was crouched on the floor, writhing in pain and vomiting blood, looking like he didn't have much time left. Seeing the man deteriorate rapidly, knowing trouble at the station would only escalate, Trailer quickly unlocked the door to assess the situation. But as they approached, the detainees suddenly went berserk and lunged at the officers. Trailer rushed in to assist his colleagues. But in the next moment, the suspect tackled his eldest son Joseph, viciously biting into him. It took several officers working together to subdue the frenzied suspect and lock him away separately. Despite being bloodied from the altercation, the suspect continued to struggle ferociously. Soon after, Joss, their mother, hurriedly took Joseph to the hospital where she worked. A tetanus shot was necessary after such an incident. But as soon as they dealt with Joseph, the hospital began experiencing several new biting incidents, causing some medical staff to flee in fear. Unbeknownst to them, a terrifying zombie virus had begun spreading through the small town. Unaware of the escalating crisis, Trailer proceeded to handle a routine domestic dispute case, unaware that the house's female resident had already turned into a zombie. Upon seeing Trailer, she lunged and bit into his arm. In pain, Trailer managed to push the zombie away and quickly escaped, running back to his patrol car to grab a first aid kit for the bleeding wound. But moments later, the female zombie followed, knocking down her bewildered husband. Trailer, now realizing the severity of the situation, swiftly escorted the frenzied woman away in front of her husband. As Trailer drove the injured man to the hospital, he received a radio call from dispatch informing him of widespread violence erupting all over the town. His wife Joss also left a message, urgently warning him. A terrifying zombie virus was sweeping through their small Indian town. As Trailer drove to the rendezvous point, he spotted an ambulance stopped on a bridge. It turned out to be his wife Joss. She seemed to have gone through something terrifying and grabbed Trailer's gun, immediately shooting the driver who was about to rise. They then discovered Joseph locked inside the ambulance, being attacked by a zombie. Desperate to save his son, Trailer shot the door open. Unfortunately, the zombie that Joseph kicked away landed right on Trailer. As he struggled to fight back, an older man with a chainsaw arrived just in time to help. It was Jizugu, coming to their aid with his team. Seeing these reanimated zombies, they realized the only way to deal with them was to burn them with fire. In just a few days, the entire town was overrun. Both Trailer and his son Joseph had been bitten, which would normally mean they'd turn into zombies. But as long as someone is of Native American descent, they are immune to the zombie virus. Other ethnicities aren't so lucky. This resulted in most of the nearby white population turning into zombies within a few months. Under Trailer's leadership, a refuge primarily composed of Native Americans was established. They erected high walls around their settlement and set up numerous checkpoints on the only bridge leading to the refuge. With dedicated guards and top-notch safety measures, they ensured the utmost security. One day, Joseph returned from patrol with a few survivors, but this good deed turned problematic. During the security check, an incident occurred. A man was carrying his barely conscious daughter, trying to hide her condition. Lysol, Trailer's younger son, noticed the bite marks on the girl's neck and immediately took down the man. When Joseph tried to intervene, Lysol lashed out, accusing him of jeopardizing the safety of the entire refuge. Lysol then handed the man a knife, saying, "If you want to come in, you need to deal with your infected daughter yourself." As tensions escalated, Trailer arrived with his team. After understanding the situation, he decided to shelter the uninfected survivors. As for the infected girl, Trailer took it upon himself to euthanize her humanely. However, despite their carefulness, another infected woman slipped through unnoticed, as her bite wound was on her abdomen. The man who lost his daughter, consumed by despair, shot himself in the restroom and turned into a zombie, but was quickly dealt with by Trailer. Trailer's decision to accept the survivors didn't sit well with Lysol. To him, taking in non-native survivors posed a significant risk. If any infected white individuals infiltrated the refuge, it would create a major safety threat. Although Native Americans were immune to the virus, zombies would still attack them. Lysol believed that the Native community should seize this opportunity to establish a secure settlement exclusively for themselves. Lysol's views garnered considerable support among the tribe members, who felt they were the rightful owners of the land. Unlike the radical Lysol, Trailer was more moderate. He believed that the Native American suffering was behind them, and now was the time to unite with any survivors they could find to face the crisis together. The father and son parted on bad terms, creating a rift that would later jeopardize the refuge's safety. While Trailer and his team were out scavenging for supplies, Lysol, who harbored deep resentment towards the white survivors, decided to welcome the woman they had taken in earlier that day. Unfortunately, his actions led to dire consequences. When Joseph arrived after hearing the commotion, he found that the infected woman had bitten Lysol, causing him significant harm. Although Lysol survived the attack, his days of enjoying life were effectively over. Lysol blamed Joseph for everything, believing that if Joseph hadn't brought those people back, he wouldn't be in this predicament. During their heated argument, Lysol stabbed Joseph. Not stopping there, Lysol, now completely consumed by darkness, locked the infected woman and Joseph inside the refuge, planning to wipe out all the white survivors within. After breaking free, Joseph immediately sought out his mother, Joss, to warn her. However, it was too late. The sounds of zombies echoed throughout the refuge, signaling its imminent downfall. As the chaos unfolded, a man who refused to heed the warnings insisted on leaving. The moment he stepped outside, a horrifying scream pierced the air. Meanwhile, Trailer and his team finally returned. Seeing the unguarded gate, he knew something was wrong. He contacted Joss through the walkie-talkie and learned about the dire situation inside the refuge. Despite the danger, Trailer decided to rescue his family. They devised a diversion plan, using the car's music to attract a horde of frenzied zombies, allowing the others to slip into the refuge. Fortunately, they arrived just in time, as Joseph and Joss were barely holding the door shut. Jizigo, staying calm under pressure, cut off a zombie's arm and successfully closed the door. Now was not the time to debate right and wrong. Escaping was the priority. However, with so many people needing evacuation, the process was slow. As they staggered towards the vehicles, a massive horde of zombies broke through the door. Trailer immediately opened fire, but the gunshots only drew more zombies. Jizigo, organizing the evacuation, shouted for the cars to move out. In the chaos, a few survivors fell from the vehicles and were quickly overwhelmed and devoured by the pursuing zombies. Trailer's situation worsened by the minute. To protect his wife and son, he stood at the front, but soon, he was overwhelmed by the horde of zombies. Even if he was immune to the virus, being devoured by a swarm of zombies was still fatal. Trailer's sacrifice for his family was a noble one, and he died a hero. Joss and Joseph, heartbroken, followed Jizigo to escape the refuge. Before they could even catch their breath, someone reached out to Jizigo, informing him that there were more survivors waiting for rescue in a nearby church. However, this was part of Lysol's sinister plan. Lysol had lost his sanity, and Jizigo knew he had to stop him, even if it meant killing his own kin. Jizigo and his team arrived at the church, catching Lysol's accomplices off guard and swiftly taking them out. However, there was no sign of Lysol himself. Unbeknownst to them, this was Lysol's cunning strategy. His true target was Joseph's wife, Charlie, who he blamed for bringing the white survivors into their community in the first place. Just as Lysol released the zombies from the trunk, ready to feed Charlie to them, Joss finally couldn't bear it any longer and drew her gun. Lysol, however, was too far gone to listen to reason. Joss pulled the trigger, but in the same moment the zombies were unleashed and quickly swarmed towards Charlie. Joseph arrived just in time to take down the zombies, but unfortunately, Charlie had already been bitten on the neck. Faced with the deranged Lysol, Joseph, in a fit of rage, stabbed him. Disheartened, Jizugu fired a few shots into the sky as he was leaving. The gunshots attracted the zombie horde, sealing Lysol's fate. In the end, as the survivors boarded a small boat to escape back to the indigenous homeland, Jizugu chose to stay behind. With his son Trailer dead and himself feeling like a withered tree, he decided not to join them. After bidding farewell to his loved ones, Jizugu drew his katana and charged into the horde of zombies, soon to be engulfed by them. Meanwhile, on the boat, Charlie gave birth to a baby girl. Although she was white and lacked immunity to the virus, it seemed the child had inherited Joseph's resistance, offering a glimmer of hope. In the final moments, at Charlie's heartfelt request, Joseph mercifully ended her suffering. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates. See you in